I think at the end of this year, River City Girls is going to join Bloodstained Ritual of the Night and Man of Medan as one of those games where, yes, it's got some problems. Yes, there are some technical issues in there. There are things that I do objectively have to come in here and point at and give it a few negatives for. I can't ignore them. However, they still might end up being on my 10 favorite games of the year list just because this is exactly the kind of stuff that I love. Except that Bloodstained Ritual of the Night was a Metroidvania game, and I love Metroidvania games. And Man of Medan was a choose-your-own-adventure story, and I love choose-your-own-adventure stories. River City Girls is a beat-em-up, and I kind of hate beat-em-ups. I have never been a fan of this genre of games, but gosh darn it, this game is so charming. This game is so fun that I can't help but absolutely love it. Now, River City Girls is meant to be a sequel / spiritual successor / reboot to the old River City Ransom franchise, and I never played any of those games, but I did play the Scott Pilgrim beat-em-up game, and I do know that Scott Pilgrim beat-em-up game was heavily inspired by River City Ransom, and this game really reminds me of that Scott Pilgrim beat-em-up game. So, just going by that, I'd say that this is a pretty successful follow-up to the River City Ransom games. But that is the extent that I'm going to talk about the old River City Ransom games. Instead, I'm going to talk about how new and refreshing this game feels. Because this game is all about the two girlfriends from the old River City Ransom game, Kyoko and Misako. Now they are in the spotlight. In the previous games, they were kidnapped, and Kunio and Riki, they had to go and save them. Now Kunio and Riki have gone disappearing, so it's now up to Kyoko and Misako to go across River City and just beat up everyone in their path until they get their boyfriends back. So, hey, it is a fun premise. You can see how this is going to lead to a bunch of different challenges and many different areas that you can go to. But what makes this game so incredibly fun is A, the animation. The animation in this game is spot on. Anytime that you see your characters doing a super move, anytime that you see them doing a special, anytime that you see them going into a combo, or even just running, all the pixel art just looks fantastic in this game. Second thing that makes this so special is the combat itself. Now, I will say, the combat took me a while to get used to, because there is a lot of stuff in this combat that really feels like it should combo together, but it didn't. However, after I got used to this, I realized, no. Most of this stuff actually does combo together. It's just that the timing is different than I expected it to be. Looking at this fun, upbeat animation and this lighter tone of a game, I kept thinking, okay, so there's going to be some pretty quick combat because that's what I'm used to with animation that looks like this. However, the animation, it follows a very precise beat. If you want to combo into moves, you can't just jam on buttons. You have to know the exact timing for every single move. And once you get used to that, yeah, you can actually do some pretty impressive stuff. I actually found someone online who was able to figure out how to do an infinite with these moves. How to basically just keep juggling and bouncing characters across the wall and just sending them back up into the air and then doing combos in the air and then bouncing them off a wall again and then throwing them into another player so that they can continue the combo. It is insane the level of detail that they put into this combat system. As I said, it took me a little while to get used to it, but once I did get used to it and once I started unlocking all the moves that you can buy in this game, yeah, it actually really started to impress me. It became one of my favorite things about the game. But the third thing that makes this game so good, and the thing that is my personal favorite thing about the game, and is arguably the biggest selling point of this entire game, is just the charm. This is one of the most charming games I have played all year. I was constantly stunned by all the tiny little details that they put into this game just to make it feel more fun. For example, every single boss fight that you go into, it starts with the boss having their own custom unique animated intro. That's awesome. That's cool. A lot of other games wouldn't do something like that, but this game goes one step further. After you get that animated intro, you then have some dialogue exchange with the boss, and then they go into a big versus screen. That versus screen looks awesome. The graphic designs in this game are spot on. We talk about how good the character designs are, how good the animation is. The little details like the graphic designs in here just make this whole thing pop. or even when you get beat, which I'll be honest with you guys is going to happen a lot because this is a beat 'em up game, which we're all influenced by the old arcade games that were designed to steal all your quarters. So yes, you are going to lose a lot in this game, but every time that you lose, you don't just fall over. There's a fun little animation that your character does when they get knocked over. It's just this tiny little detail they threw in there, but it's fun. Or when Kyoko and Misako start talking to each other, you see their characters pop out of their life bars at the top of the screen and just look down at what's happening beneath them in order to comment on it. You don't need to do that in the game, but they did it because it was fun. This entire game is loaded with little tiny details like that that just add to all the charm in this game. But that's just the little stuff. The big stuff, like the characters, every character in here is great. I loved every single character, whether it was a boss, whether it was a supporting character. The only ones I didn't like were the ones you're supposed to not like. The ones who are the stuck-up snobs who keep popping up and they're supposed to be the nice, fancy, fashionable girls from across town who you just really hate. And yeah, the game does a great job of making you just really hate them. But those are just the major characters. There's so many smaller characters who pop up here to give you a quest, or they're an NPC who comments on what's going on, or tell you a piece of information that you need in order to find the next place that you have to go. Or the shops. Every single shop is run by a different character who has their own unique design and their own voice lines and their own personality. It is crazy how many great characters they designed for this game, and they didn't just create a design for them. As I said, they got them all to be fully voice acted. And I will admit, I got a little bit of extra joy out of the voice acting because so many of the voice actors in here are YouTubers who I follow, so I did constantly stop and go, oh, it's that character, it's that character. I don't know who that character is, but I'm curious to find out who that character is. Yeah, I had fun doing that. I'll admit not everyone will, but I did enjoy it. But it's not just that the art style is great and that lends itself to really well-designed characters in here. I think this game is really darn funny. I'll admit, humor is completely subjective. What is funny to one person is not going to be funny to everyone else out there. And I have heard a lot of people saying, yeah, this game is trying way too hard to hit the kind of humor that it's going for. And I will admit, there are a few times in here where I felt like, yeah, okay, you're trying a little bit too hard with that joke. For example, in the very first chapter of this game, they use the, you don't even go to this school joke twice. So yes, there are a few times in here in which I was like, all right, pull it back just a second there. But for about 90% of this game, I really enjoyed the sense of humor of this. I recorded about 2 hours of this game at the very beginning of it, and then I thought, yeah, I've got enough footage for my review. I don't really need anything else in here. So then I played another 2 hours just by myself, and I was kicking myself the entire time because I didn't record any of that. That 2 hours was the funniest 2 hours of this entire game. After I played those next 2 hours, I just sat there going, oh my god, every line of dialogue from these NPCs is making me crack up. And I can't show any of it in the review. So just take my word on this. There's some really darn funny stuff in here. And one last positive that I have to give this game that lends itself to the charm of the game, this thing has amazing music. I freaking love the soundtrack to River City Girls. I want to own this thing. If you are a fan of old school 8-bit, 16-bit video game soundtracks, this thing is trying to go for that same tone. It nails it. I freaking love some of the boss fight songs in here. However, as I said, this game does have some problems that I can't ignore. There are some problems with the actual gameplay that I do have to come in here and I do have to point out. One of them is, as I said, the combat in here is great, but man, it is going to take you a while to get used to it. This entire game constantly felt like, okay, I should be able to combo from A to B to C to D, and you can, but this game feels like you should be able to just go A, B, C, D. Instead, it's A, B, C, D. Or it's like some weird kind of combination like that. You know, like there's so many super moves that you can unlock, and you really feel like you should be able to end a combo with a super move, and you absolutely can, but not in the way that you think you can. So yeah, the combat, it takes some time to get used to, but it can be frustrating. However, there are other things about the combat that it takes some time to get used to, they're just kind of a problem. And I will say, in all fairness, a lot of things that I found to be a problem with the combat in here, they're things I always found to be a problem when it comes to beat 'em up games. Like for example, if I want to do a combo on an enemy, I have to hit the punch button. However, if there is an item on the ground that my character can pick up, you pick that up by using the punch button. So if you want to go over and punch an enemy at the exact spot where an item is on the ground, you're going to pick up the item on the ground, leaving yourself wide open to your opponent being able to counterattack you. I really wish that there had been an actual grab button in this game. So that way I would not have run into that problem. Same thing goes for when you want to go into the next area. If you want to go into the next part of a stage, you go to the next part of a stage by hitting the punch button. So if there are enemies at the corner of a screen and you want to fight them, you need to be really careful. Because if you move like a pixel away from that enemy, you're going to now leave the fight and go on to the next stage. And that can be really frustrating if there is an enemy on that stage that you want to recruit. There's a really cool mechanic in here where after you beat up everyone on a screen, the last enemy that is left standing, if you get their life low enough, you can then recruit them. And there is actually kind of a you gotta catch them all element to this where you can actually collect every single one of the enemies in this game. And there are a couple really rare enemies in this game. And it can be really, really frustrating when you work your butt off to clear that entire stage. Make sure that you are careful to not knock down that final enemy, and then you accidentally move on to the next stage because you were fighting one of the few remaining characters right there at the edge of the screen, or when it just will not let you recruit them. That's the other thing. In order to recruit them, you have to wait until they are now begging for their life, until they start putting up the big beg emoji. You then have to go over to them, stand right next to them, and then your character will grab them. And after you grab them, you will then have to hit L1 in order to recruit them. However, the grabbing mechanic feels so broken. As I said, there's so much about the combat and the gameplay in here that will make you think, oh shoot, is this kind of broken? And then after playing it some more, you'll realize, no, I was just doing it wrong. This is legit broken. There is so many times in which you will be trying to recruit a character by walking right around them, just trying to get in that exact sweet pixel perfect spot in order to grab them, and you just won't do it. And there were some times in which I was trying to recruit a super rare enemy, and I just walked around them the entire time and just never picked them up. And it drove me freaking nuts. So yeah, I have to give it a negative there as well. Also, this game, it's got some really cool ideas in it, but doesn't do a great job of explaining those really cool ideas to you. For example, you can buy items that give you a buff, like an item that gives you plus 5% when attacking male characters, plus 5% when attacking female characters, plus 5% when throwing an item, which, let me just say, those special items need to give you a bigger boost. Those special items are expensive. It is hard to save up the money that you need to buy those items, and yet the boost that they give you don't feel worth it at all. However, the other thing that you can spend money on is food. And at first, I looked at that and went, well, the food will keep me alive, and if I die, then I do end up losing some of the money that I've collected. However, I'll lose less money than the food cost, so it doesn't really feel worth it to buy that food. Instead, I'd rather just save up the money to try and buy these crazy rare clothing items that I can use to get a permanent boost to my character. Here's something the game does not explain to you at all. Whenever you eat an item, which, by the way, I talk about how this game puts little details in here to be charming. Every single time that your character eats an item, they just go, nom 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 nom, which serves no purpose, but it's incredibly cute and fun. But every single time that your character eats an item, they get a permanent boost to one of their stats. So if you use all your money to just buy up food and just eat it, you'll be a tank. By the end of this game, you will be incredibly buff. And I was going through this game getting my ass kicked because I wasn't buying any food. I was just saving it all up to buy those clothing items because they were rarer and more expensive. So I knew that I would probably need the money for that so that I could get those little boosts to my attack. I didn't even realize I could have bought all the food in the time it took me to save up for all those items. And I could have just been this big walking muscle woman going around just beating up everyone in River City with the power of ice cream and convenience store foods. Yeah, this game got really hard towards the middle of it because I was still saving up to get all those items. But once I finally bought enough of those clothing items, I was like, well, now I have this money, which I spend on, I guess I can spend on food. And in like an hour, my character grew in stats more than they did in the entire rest of the game because I now actually started buying the food. I wish the game had told me about that. However, despite those problems, as I said, this game, the combat is fun when you get used to it. This game has an amazing soundtrack. It looks really darn good. The art style is great. I didn't even mention the fact that whenever there's a flashback, it goes through manga panels, which are just insanely cool to look at. But the best thing about this game is just that charm, and that charm helps me look past a lot of the other problems. But as I said, none of the problems in here, they're annoying, but they're not game-breaking. They're nothing that really makes me pull my hair out. So I did have a great time playing this game, and I can't wait to go back and keep playing it because there's actually a lot of replay value to this. I was actually wondering if $30 might be asking a little too much for this, but when I saw that there were things like new characters to unlock on a second playthrough, extra difficulty modes, multiplayer mode, secret bosses that you can fight after you have already beaten the game, yeah, there's a decent chunk of replay value in here, so you know what? $30 is actually a decent price for this. I'm actually okay with that. So looking at all that, I do still have to take some points off because there are a couple of issues that I have with it, but I'm still gonna give it an 8.5. This was a really fun game. And again, just speaking in terms of how much I enjoyed it and how much this game is going to stick with me, it may end up on my best games of the year list. I'm sure there's going to be 10 other games out there I give higher scores to this year. 10 other games that probably deserve it more than this one, but goddamn, man, it's my personal top 10 list, and right now, this one's on there. I gotta be honest with you guys, so yeah, if anything that I described to you today sounds like something you want to play, go check out River City Girls. Thank you guys for tuning in for another quick review. Let us know what you want us to review next down in the comments below, or on Twitter at Thorgi's Arcade, or on Twitch at Professor Thorgi. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Come out next time. Bye.